Kind of like that. My mind could play me tricks. So could anyone's. What's up, my little Christmas elves? Mark with Kardavox Academy here. Thanks for tuning in to the channel, and today we're talking about Majestica. Now, if you're new to the channel, again, my name is Mark. I am a vocal coach. I'm also the vocalist of Kardashev, Neverbreath, and Viramia, and I specialize predominantly in like deathcore and death metal screaming and raspy, gritty singing. So Majestica is going to be fun for me. In fact, when it comes to this Majestica situation here, it was pretty funny. So a couple of you have noticed that in my previous videos, I've been looking a little under the weather, and that's because I have actually been quite sick, quite ill. In fact, Steven and Alex, the two other teammates here at Kardavox Academy, noticed this, and they had a conversation that went a little bit like this.
Is it my imagination or something bothering the captain?
He has been under a great deal of strain lately. While we were on Jamaris, he ate sparingly and slept even less.
Except I wasn't on Jamaris. I was actually on my couch, blubbering and moaning like a beached whale. And so anyways, I went to Alex and I said, yo, I'm going to skip this week's video. I'm not feeling very good. And the conversation basically went like this.
My culture is based on freedom and self-determination.
Freedom is irrelevant. Self-determination is irrelevant. You must comply.
We would rather die.
So here we are, filming this video. Now, I've summoned up as much Christmas cheer as I can for you today. And if you enjoy the content, if you appreciate what we're about to do here, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. It really helps the algorithm. We also do give vocal lessons here at Kardavox Academy. This is a little bit different than what I normally do and what I normally teach, but we're going to be getting some good singing fundamentals here, no doubt. And we also have a Patreon if you want to keep these videos coming, if you want to help us make 2 videos per week, which would be sick to continue doing, and to keep more steady. Check out our Patreon. We've got an awesome Discord with lots of friends and lots of cool people to hang out with and talk with. We've also got voting you can do each month to pick your video of choice for me to react to and break down. But anyways, without further ado, let's talk Majestica. Oh, and by the way, one quick cool fact. So the singer and lead guitarist of this band, Tommy Johansson, tell me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, is also in Sabaton, which is another really cool power metal group. So kind of a cool crossover here. Anyways, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Nothing like Christmas soup. So good. Rocking that C5 at the end. Holy cow. Before we talk about the technique here, which, holy cow, there is a lot to talk about, we got to talk about the real star of this entire video, those white kicks that Tommy is rocking. Damn, Tommy. back at it again with the white kicks. Yeah, I'm bringing back old memes. I don't care. All right, though. So Tommy's voice, the first word that comes to mind here is soaring, right? Just these soaring, big, huge, powerful vocal sections. This is, now I haven't really looked into his background, but if this guy is not classically trained, if this guy has not really honed his voice in a very academic setting, I'm going to be tremendously surprised, right? Because we hear so much control of tone, of timbre, of placement, and we can hear amazingly and kind of the telltale sign that someone is really knowledgeable in what they're doing. They're not accidentally good, they're very intentionally good, which are both very valuable, by the way, is the fact that he is super relaxed as he's moving through these notes. So most of what he's singing right now, in fact, I think everything, except for that last note that we just heard, which was a C5, is in the fourth octave, and he's singing primarily in what we would call a mixed voice or a mixed register. Now, this is a really common thing that singers will hear and can be very, very confusing. It's kind of a big topic. It's something we could make a whole video on, but just to kind of set the precedence for what we're talking about here, we can think of a mixed voice as literally a mixture of two registers. Now, some people, some other coaches will refer to this as a blending of colors, or I've heard like numbers before. Really, any analogy you need to help you understand it is totally fine. I like to just imagine it more literally as what it is, right? We have our chest voice down here, right there, right? And I can feel those vibrations mostly in the chest and forward in my mouth, right? A right there. Then when we sing up in our head, oh yeah, oh, right? It's very high. It's like kind of like this laser pew, pew, pew noise, right? And then we have our mixed voice, which is kind of a mixture of the two. Oh yeah, right? Now, there are different ways to get there, lots of different exercises, but the main thing that we want to think about is when we're singing this way is that we're relaxed, right? The reason we have to be relaxed is because if you think about it, when we are climbing in pitch, our vocal folds are getting pulled, right? They're being pulled healthfully by the muscles in the larynx, I always space on these, thyroarytenoid and cricothyroid. But they're getting pulled, right? And if they're being pulled, they're getting longer. And if they're getting longer, they need space. They need space to do that in the larynx, right? And because it's a mix, we're kind of combining the pulled thinness that we would get in a head voice, as well as retaining some of the thickness that we would get in our chest voice. We're literally mixing these two things together, right? Now, don't think about those tiny muscular movements because they're just going to confuse you and you're just going to overwork. The best thing to do when trying to find your mix is to realize that you kind of make these noises already. A lot of times with vocal lessons, we'll mimic different voices. Like in past videos, I've talked about the awfully bad, purposefully bad New York accent. If you're from New York and you're listening to this right now, this is meant to be a caricature. Don't at me. But like this, hey, I'm walking here. Hey, yeah, right? Or you can do like you can do the bad Broadway sound. I want to be on Broadway, right? Those types of things. But my favorite is honestly just saying ew. Like imagine you stepped in dog poop or something and you go ew, ew, ew. Now you take that ew, 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 ew. I'm not the man I used to be, yeah, right? Like that sort of thing. Now, we could go into a lot more detail on mixing, and if I'm not careful, I'm going to do that forever, so I'm going to shut my mouth, and we're going to keep listening, because as many of my students can tell you, I can ramble a little bit. All right, so here we go. Let's continue on, and let's see what sort of cool vocal stylings we're going to be getting soon. Okay, so I was gonna pause it, and then we had that sick drum fill, and then we had that cool narration. So two cool things I want to talk to you about. So the first is when we're playing around with these silly voices to find our mix, we can be like, oh, this doesn't sound very musical. And oftentimes that's true, but one of the great things about like power metal and the more theatrical side of singing is that we can actually use those sounds pretty well for storytelling. Like there's this section where he said, now you're running out of chances. And the way he said chances was kind of like, chances, now you're running out of chances, right? And it kind of has that, hey, I'm walking here, hey, chances, right? Now, really cool thing that I also heard was when he said hour, we started getting a little bit of grit. There was a little bit here and there, but he kind of pushed it forward, hour, right? He sort of kind of pushed it up like that. Now, when we do that, one of the most important things that we're going to want to do is, and by the way, gritty, raspy singing loves the mix, loves it. And your voice type will change where your mix is. It's not going to be the same for everybody, you know, baritone, soprano, bass, contralto, all that stuff. It's going to be a little bit different. So don't feel like you have to place it with what I'm doing in this video. It might be higher or lower for you. But when we do that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add the grit. Most of the time, we're going to get this from either like just a glottal compression, a fry sound, or a little bit of both combined together, right? And sometimes people will use those terms interchangeably. But rather than thinking, oh, I want to pick this one, or oh, I want to pick that one, what you should do is you should just add it very, very subtly, right? Just a drip, just a drop at a time, and go with what feels natural. Me and Justin, the singer in Tala, we were recently talking, and he likes to use this this metaphor of like, or this image of revving a motorcycle, right? And that's a really good way to do it. And one thing he and I also talked about was how you can kind of take that, sound, that motorcycle sound, and add it like do your A, like let's say that note right there, A right there. Let's take that and let's make the motorcycle like really far away. You can barely hear it, right? So just a little bit of that grit, A, just a tiny bit. Then once that's comfortable, and by the way, this process might take a couple weeks. Don't force grit. Let it take as much time as it needs. There's no rush here. Unless you're under a deadline, in which case tell your bandmates to be patient. I've been there, okay? But this A, and then slowly over time you can sort of rev that up. A in the hour, right? And you can kind of throw it there. Now again, take it slow. Beyond that, let's keep going. One interesting thing about the original version of this, or the original story, though, so this is clearly coming from a Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. One of the fascinating things is that in the original version, what they did to like spread Christmas cheer is they proved that the best way to do that was to like, share, and subscribe this video, and subscribe to Kardavox Academy's YouTube channel. Sorry, I had to do it. Let's keep going. Oh! Okay, well there it was. Actually, before we wrap up, there's one thing I wanted to talk about here. Let's go here. So there's a section where he's gonna sing, and you can hear Tommy really warm up his voice, and he kind of puts a little whine on it, in a really cool way. And I want to talk about that because there's a little crossover with that onset and deathcore, believe it or not. So let's listen. I think he says, my mind could play me tricks, so could anyone's. That's what it sounds like to me. Listen, so when he's, my mind could play me tricks, so could anyone's. It's kind of like that, my mind could play me tricks, so could anyone's. Like that sort of sound, right? Einar from Leprous does that a lot too. My mind could play me tricks, so could anyone's. And I want to show you the crossover with deathcore here, but let me make sure I'm getting it right. Okay, so not as forward as I originally heard it, which is probably good. But okay, so that sound, my mind could play me tricks, so could anyone's. Right, that sound right there. That sound we often hear tossed on top of or onsetting gutturals, right? And that takes a tremendous amount of control, even though some people don't like the way that it sounds, right? Because it is a little heavily used in the deathcore and death metal world. When I hear that, even if I wouldn't do that myself, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good coordination. And so like our normal deathcore guttural kind of sits around here. Right? And sometimes when we onset, you hear that little whine there. Now, my apologies. I know those gutturals aren't the strongest. I've literally been puking for 2 days straight. And after this, I'm probably going to go back to bed. So cut me a little bit of slack if you could. But that sound, that onset, that sound is kind of similar. So obviously, two completely separate styles. It's just a similarity I heard. Again, don't at me. Let's listen to the end of this song again, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up because hot damn, it's fire. That was good. So that is Ghost of Marley by Majestica. You know, I'm going to have a moment of transparency here. I like to do that. I'm not the biggest power metal guy, but that song I can get with. That song is a lot of fun. So again, just to kind of wrap up, a lot of what we heard here was a really well controlled, a really amazing mix being a blend or a mix of our chest voice and our head voice. Ways that we can find that. Pardon me, the forced Christmas cheer is starting to fade. I'm starting to feel a little ill again. So let's wrap it up here. Again, a mix of the head voice and the chest voice. And ways that we can do that is to find out or to realize that we kind of do that in our speaking voice already. Hey, yay! Right? We can kind of do that. The key is relaxation. We need room for our vocal folds to make all these movements and coordinations up and down and lengthening and thickening and shortening and all this. We need room to do. With our distortion, if we're going to add distortion to our belts, add it in over time. Allow it to take a couple weeks. Don't be like, I have to be super gritty today. And finally, have fun. Play around with these theatrical voices. Again, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It does mean a lot, and it does help a lot with the algorithm. Feel free to check out our Patreon. It's a lot of fun. You get to vote on a video. We have a Discord channel where we've been talking pretty much all day today, just about all sorts of stuff, sharing lyrics, talking about video games, everything like that. And as always, I do give one-on-one lessons, like 30 hours a week. So if you want to jump in and get your feet wet and build your vocal talent and build your voice, I'm here to help. But beyond that, as always, thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a safe holiday season, whatever it is you are or are not celebrating. I like you just the same. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.